Primo was accused of exposing himself to one person. Attorney's office said the charges are being dropped due to a lack of evidence.
Joshua Lincoln Alexander Primo, born December 24th, 2002. Today's feature is a guy that had so much potential at such an early age. His story actually makes me sad he couldn't see it through for such unclear and career-tarnishing reasons. For those who didn't know what happened to the once youngest player ever in the NBA that went to college, Josh Primo, he lost his Spurs deal because his pre-game psychologist accused him of exposing himself to her during their private sessions up to 9 times. An accusation he called false and his lawyer described as never intentional and an act of betrayal in favor of Josh Primo. The Spurs waited as long as they could, but eventually had to settle the matter in order to dismiss a case looming over the organization's head in their time of rebuilding themselves from the ground up. Primo was supposed to be a huge part of that rebuild. The Spurs have missed the NBA playoffs for 5 seasons straight now, 2 before Primo was drafted to the club 12th overall in 2021, coming to a team that were young and void of leadership, their top 6 scorers all 27 or younger. With DeJounte Murray their best player, the Spurs desperately needed a guy that could come in and get to the rim and make plays, and most importantly could create on his own and at any time. Not to mention a confident player with the potential to be a star and help lead the Spurs to a winning era. Primo was that guy. He was young, advanced for his age, and had all the skills in the world to be a star. He was also confident with the ultimate scorer's mentality. I'd compare his to that of Cam Thomas, those players that never seen an opportunity to score they didn't like. What I liked most about Primo was his pace to the game. He, under no circumstance, allowed the defense to rush him into the shot he didn't want. Watching him play really reminded me of Dwayne Wade and how methodical his first and counter moves were off the dribble. His impossible shot making in the mid-range, mixed with a lot of Marshawn Brooks and how he set the defense up with maybe a little too many dribbles that worked out in the end. Either way, I liked his game a lot, and his age only made you excited about what he could be for a team with the space and culture for him to flourish. The Spurs saw a project in him, seeing as he graduated high school a year early, spent only 1 year in college, a year he didn't consistently show what his skills could be, and still was chosen in the lottery at the perfect time for a downtrodden storied franchise. It's crazy to think Josh Primo is still 21 years old right now, working his way back to the league with a stigma all across his name as a player that's shown he could be detrimental to a team. Josh Primo had the chance to be a star, but for these reasons, his growth was stunted. What happened? Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Let's get it, man. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Josh Primo is a 6'4" shooting guard point guard from Toronto, Ontario, Canada that moved around a lot and had an interesting start to his basketball journey. First playing for Huntington Prep in West Virginia in 2018-19, then transferring back home to play in Toronto, rated the number 3 player in Toronto overall, before reclassifying to the 2020 class instead of his original 2021. He earned a 5-star prospect badge as the 21st overall prospect. He chose Alabama, who were a team back on the map of sending prospects to the NBA early. As a freshman, he dealt with an inconsistent year, but stood out in games like the ones against Auburn and LSU, where he had 22 points each outing. He finished the season averaging 8 points, 0.8 assists, 3.4 rebounds, and shot 38% from 3. He decided to test the NBA draft waters at the draft combine, and had a good enough showing he called his college career quits and fully entered the 2021 NBA draft. Stunt number 1, moving too fast. Josh Primo is sadly one of those players that fell into a situation where he couldn't wait around for an opportunity that may never come again, but needed more time developing on and off the floor in more ways than anyone could have predicted. Basketball-wise, Primo was set. It's rare you see young hoopers get the opportunity he got, where he was good enough as a player and in the classroom to be able to reclassify to an earlier class. Usually you see guys graduate and spend another year in prep schools to maximize their high school achievements that look good on paper when your basketball history is evaluated. He had all the tools and perfect size for his game. He shot the ball well all throughout high school. Even his year at Alabama, it was one of the bright spots to his game. He was creative and crafty, skinny but played with a strength low to the ground on his dribbles, and could finish above the rim. He also was a pretty good defender as well on shots at the rim, and to top it off, he was a year younger than his peers. But all that was just the ingredients to the meal. In a sense, Josh could have waited a little for the meal to fully cook before he served it. Or could he? It's a question that's torn me because on one hand, everything I mentioned, along with his stats, said he needed more time in college, but on the other hand, he participated in the draft combine, and the report on him was he was one of the most skilled players in the draft, a player scouts projected would do much better in the NBA's open court and individual-focused environment than the confines of college. They spoke so highly of him that his college stats didn't matter, as the 18-year-old youngest player in college decided to sign with an agent and be drafted 12th overall. That high a pick guarantees at least 4 years in the NBA, perfect for a guy who could develop as his franchise rebuilds. But still a guy too young, with a time limit now on his potential. Mentally though is where he needed much more development, obviously, with the behaviors he's been accused of, ones that trump any lack of on-court development. Stunt number 2, indecent exposure allegations. As a public figure, there's certain things you want to stay away from even being accused of. You may not be charged with an official crime, but for a person to even say you did it could mean the end of your opportunity because basketball waits for no one. You may be the youngest this or the youngest that right now, but in a year, there'll be a guy just as tall as you, just as fast, jumps just as high or higher, with a better high school or college career, better fit to his team, and a better image, all while you're a year older. Allegations like the one where psychologist Dr. Hillary Cawthon sued he and the Spurs for Primo exposing his genitals to her during their meetings and the organization's failure to do anything about it after repeated offenses and complaints. She alleges that it took the Spurs 10 months to do the right thing about the situation going on that made her job much more difficult, to the point she began thinking of ways to avoid having to meet with Josh Primo. Details of what he actually did during those meetings were unclear, besides vague descriptions that suggest Primo hated underwear and may have liked loose workout shorts a bit too much. Either way, Cawthon kept count and says the exposure became increasingly more offensive, leading to the Spurs waiving Primo October 2022 and reached a settlement with their former psychologist, and after, no team claimed him off waivers. The NBA suspended Josh for 4 games September 29, 2023 for conduct detrimental to the league officially. Then he was signed to a 2-way contract with the Clippers April 2024, in which he played just 2 games before being waived again. He played 30 games in the G League 23-24 for the Raptors affiliate, but no matter what, may never shake those allegations that showed mentally he was still underdeveloped to continuously be accused of conducting himself inappropriately, even if not true. The league is a business, and allegations like such cannot fly in an era like today and shouldn't be allowed at all. Stunt number 3, growth and development. As much as I don't want this to be true, I have to say it's looking more and more like it is. The NBA may have gotten it wrong on Josh Primo as far as how they rated his potential. Maybe he's just not that good, even though he passes the eye test when you see him in certain spurts. He's obviously a pro, his play style, his confidence, his size and skills, but an argument can be made that he was never dominant on any level he's played on. Rated as low as 67 in high school overall, averaged just 8 points as a freshman at Alabama, along with more turnovers than assists and nothing else to add to the team other than scoring, which in workouts he looks like he can do, in combines he shines, but in games in today's era, where it's not all about dribbling 28 times to break a defender down, maybe he's just not a good fit, or in my opinion, hasn't been able to show growth and development since high school. Even in 30 games in the G League 23-24, in a year that's supposed to be a bounce back, he only averaged 16 points a game, on 36% shooting from 3, 3.8 rebounds, 3.5 assists, and 2.2 turnovers. For a former lottery pick trying to get back to the league and beat indecent allegations, he should be fired up to do a lot more than that. I personally think he needed 2 more years at Alabama for his game and proof of success to develop, not to mention more time to avoid the Spurs' mental health team. All in all, I'm not sure Josh Primo has a future in the NBA. What he was accused of was egregious enough for the NBA to have no choice but to make an example out of him, even though there's a good chance he really wasn't aware he was doing anything wrong, which also lends to his mental lack of development and awareness. Josh Primo had star potential. Hopefully he does get another opportunity, but for these reasons, his growth was stunted. Salute, much respect. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth, and I'm out.